Hello and a very good morning. Thank you for watching Smart 24 TV and for joining us this morning. Welcome back from Smart Means Business with Joram Paul Sonko there. And of course, more business coming up, in the show. We are looking at financial markets and my name is Anthony Sabale. You can follow us on Twitter to be part of the show, and that is by following our Twitter handle. That's the Smart 24 TV now. You can also follow me personally at Anthony Sabale there on Twitter for more updates on financial markets and what's happening both locally and globally. Well, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa. And with Altex East Africa, we are saying you can do something new. Altex East, and we say that you can do something new simply because now the markets are accessible by simply a dial of a *292 hash. And following the prompts, you can be able to buy or sell treasury bonds across East Africa. With, of course, Altex East Africa, we are saying the markets are now more accessible and much more affordable. And at just 15,000 Ugandan shillings starting, you can, of course, begin your journey of investment with Altex East Africa. Now, Altex East Africa is regulated by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. And we are saying now, today, you can start trading at exactly 30 minutes past 8 a.m. all the way up to 30 minutes past 3 p.m. Altex East Africa doing something new. Let's delve into the business of the stock exchanges and just look at averagely the performance of some of the big stock exchanges across Africa. That is on Wednesday. Looking across West Africa in Ghana, the Ghana Stock Exchange added at least 3.58 points on their benchmark index there in the mid, of course, the mid of the day on Wednesday morning. When you look at Ghana Stock Exchange, we have about 18 companies that we are talking about here on one of the busiest stock exchanges within West Africa. Ghana Stock Exchange in aggregate yesterday had, however, 16 participants in the trade on their particular day of trading, with one gainer, and that was MTN Ghana, and ending at least with a 0.76% appreciation in price. The two losers for the day were Total Energies Marketing Ghana as well as Access Bank Ghana. Total Energies Ghana lost at least by 10.0%, whereas the Access Bank of Ghana at least lost by 2.63%. When you look at Total Energies Marketing Ghana, this is a Ghanaian subsidiary that is, of course, of the global Total Energies Group, which is the fourth largest publicly traded integrated international oil and gas company in the world, with a presence of over 130 countries. Now, Total Energies Ghana has a market capitalization of close to 685 million in the Ghanaian currency, and this is at least representing at least close to 1%, 0.973% to be very specific. Now, Total Energies Ghana at least lost yesterday 0.68 points on their benchmark price, and that was down to a price of 6.12 gauchis there, the Ghanaian currency, and this was a 10% drop. However, despite this drop in price, Total Energies Ghana has been performing quite well in the longer run. Looking back in exactly 1 week and month-on-month performance, as well as their year-to-date performance, it's quite a very performing stock. When you look at, for example, their weekly and monthly performance and the 3-month performance, these are still in the red figures because of the loss they incurred yesterday. But in the 6-month period, the company has seen a growth of 53% in their stock value on the Ghana Stock Exchange. 1 year performance, exactly 1 year back, when you calculate the performance of this stock, they are at a 49.3% appreciation, whereas the year-to-date performance is at 53%. In as far as trading is concerned, Total Energies Ghana is the 13th most traded on stock on the Ghana Stock Exchange in the last quarter. When you look at from the 3rd of April to still yesterday, at least on the 5th of July, at least close to over 93,992 shares have been recorded on the Ghana Stock Exchange, actually on the counter of Total Energies Ghana. The company on average trades at least about 1,492 shares per trading session. If you are looking at the West African market, I would definitely bet on the oil and gas sector for your investment. It would be worth a try. The oil and gas sector is quite developed in West Africa, with, of course, their major export being oil. And so you do have countries like Nigeria, countries like Ghana, Niger, very, very ardent and very supportive of oil and gas business within the West African region. So you can be rest assured that investing in such companies would return value, especially in the longer run. Total Energies Ghana, like I said, is one of the most traded on stocks, 13th in position in the last one quarter. But when you look at their average performance, they had trade on the 5th of July, on the 4th of July, on the 3rd of July, then on the 8th of June as well. And so you can, if you are very keen on Ghana Stock Exchange, you don't have that quite often for other stocks that are listed on Ghana Stock Exchange, except of course, for example, MTN Ghana. But you can definitely bank on Total Energies Marketing Ghana for your oil and gas investment within the Ghana Stock Exchange. Access Bank Group in Ghana lost at least 2.63% of their value here. And when you look at Access Bank Ghana, it began their operations in 2009 on the 19th of August. And the company since then has become one of the most capitalized commercial banks in the financial industry of Ghana. Since its inception, the bank has provided universal banking services to a large portion of the Ghanaian population. Consequently, the company's performance in the Ghanaian economy over the past 7 years has mirrored the reputation of the parent company, that is Access Bank PLC, or Public Limited Company, which is ranked amongst the top 20 bank by assets in Africa. Now, Access Bank currently on their counter here today, when you look at their growth rate, it's one of the fastest growing companies in Ghana, in as far as financial institutions are concerned in Ghana. And Access Bank Ghana has a beneficiary of about 40 million United States dollars credit facilities from the French Development Bank, as well as from the Dutch counterparts, Netherlands Development Finance Company, and over about 15 million euros from the European Investment Bank to help support the bank in lending activities, especially lending to the private sector. In as far as trading on the exchange is concerned, the Access Bank of Ghana at least has at about 644 million worth of market capitalization. This means that the bank has at least over 0.914% representation of the entire Ghanaian market, equity market there. Their closing price was 3.7 after losing about 0.1 gauchis there, the Ghanaian currency for that matter. When you look at their earnings per share, every shareholder is earning about 3.9 gauchis on the shares, and the price to earnings ratio is quite attractive at 0.95 points. The dividend hasn't been declared yet for the fiscal year 2022. And when you look at the shares outstanding, we have close to about 674 million shares at 644 million gauchis there. Now, the Access Bank Kenya, in as far as trading is concerned, is the 18th most traded on stock. So it means we don't have big volumes there being traded on the Access Bank of Kenya, rather Ghana, which is quite unfortunate. I would recommend such a stock for people that are investing still much longer term, maybe 5 to 10 years, because if you're investing for 2-3 years, you might have disappointments. In the last 3 months, if you look at their trading, they have just traded 33,011 shares in the market in Ghana, and they're valued at just about 128,000 Ghanaian gauchis, and this is on average 524 traded shares per trading session. So the bank is quite good, quite profitable, but the market is not providing enough value, not much activity around the company. So that, of course, is a little bit of a letdown, and of course, it gives you this other feeling that maybe this shouldn't be a company that you're looking at for shorter term gains, especially in the West African market, which is mainly dominated by, one, the telecommunication companies, and two, the oil and gas companies, or the oil and gas industry here in West Africa. Now, the Cal Bank recorded the highest volume, on the other hand, at about 41,505 shares. Well, talking about the volumes generally declined slightly, actually majorly, by 83%. Just that is comparing Wednesday to Tuesday, and the turnover declined by 78% on Ghana Stock Exchange. Regarding the performance of the Ghana Stock Exchange indices, the benchmark index, which is the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index, tracking all the 18 companies, at least inched upwards by 3.58 points, up to at least 2,821 points, implying that the market is quite healthy for now. And when you look at the weekly gains, they're at 0.44% on Ghana Stock Exchange, and about a 4-week gain of 11.46%, and an overall year-to-date gain of 15.46% on the Ghana Stock Exchange. Quite a healthy market in Ghana. However, I want to warn you, Ghana still has a lot more to do in as far as expanding the market within Africa. We don't have that much access. For example, here within East Africa, how can we tap into their market? It's not that easy because you have currency, exchange, forex exchange. You have different other things that actually come in the middle, stock brokerage, and so on and so forth. So the market is not as accessible and as attractive as, for example, compared to the Nigeria Stock Exchange or the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, where you can be able to easily buy those stocks wherever you are in Africa or wherever you are within the globe. That is it from the Ghana Stock Exchange. Remember, MTN Ghana actually had the lead in terms of the gains, and MTN Ghana also recorded one of the biggest volumes, the second biggest volumes, at 23,675 shares. Let's still, within the West African region, having a look at, for example, Nigeria Stock Exchange. Nigeria at least added 808 points on their value. That is on their benchmark index, generally speaking. Well, Nigeria Stock Exchange is the biggest stock exchange in West Africa and one of the most profitable stock exchanges across Africa, ranked amongst the top 10 within the African region. The companies that participated were over 121 out of the 156 listings, ending the day with 42 gainers and close to at least about 31 losers. And the Land Africa Group led the gainers at a gain of about 9.97% appreciation in price, closing off at 3.20 Nigerian Naira. Golden Guinea Breweries at least added 9.95%, and Telerams added at least 9.77%, whereas John Holt added 9.62%. Now, Ikeja Hotel came out last at the bottom. Well, in the West African region, also another sector that you would want to invest in so badly is the hospitality sector. That's one of course, the sectors that are doing quite well as well. And as far as the hospitality industry is concerned within the West African region, you can be rest assured that there is a lot of cash flow within the hospitality region. Of course, due to a lot of foreign investment in the countries in West Africa, due to oil and gas, you have so many people, expatriates, coming into these countries, tourists, and that means, of course, that they have to be hosted. They have to be, of course, hosted in hotels and that means it's a big business there within West Africa. The biggest mover on the market, on the other hand, was FBN Holdings, after recording 89.2 million shares in just a single day. Transcorp Nigeria also added about 89.2 million shares, and Access Holdings about 85.9 million shares had recorded. That is it from Nigeria Stock Exchange in West Africa. Zimbabwe had nothing much added, nothing lost on their benchmark index yesterday. And we look at elsewhere, Johannesburg Stock Exchange declined slightly by 314 points downwards on their benchmark index, the J203. And that was, of course, closing off after a loss slightly of about, 0.41% on their benchmark index there. Now, in Johannesburg, currently, one of the companies that you should be looking out for is Salungano Group that led the gainers yesterday by a 25.37% margin, and after appreciating to 0.84 South African rand in the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Clientele also added 12.08%, whereas Nictas added 9.09%. Those are some of the companies you should be looking out for on the South African market. The biggest mover on the market was Redefined Properties. And guess what? Redefined Properties recorded the highest volume at close to 25.4 million shares that were actually recorded within a single day yesterday on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Zelda Investments had about 12.4 million and Growth Point Properties about 7.5 million. Old Mutual also recorded at least 7.14 million shares. The insurance industry is big in South Africa. So you could look at, if I told you starting out in South Africa, you could look at the insurance sector, but you could also look at the mining sector. We have companies like the Palladium Minerals, which is based in Australia, but is listed on Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It has, of course, a few subsidiaries within the South African mining sector. And so you can, of course, harness that and take advantage of that market there, the huge minerals market within South Africa. Of course, they do have companies like Volkswagen, a couple of other brands that are making cars there. So the minerals industry is growing, and you could consider investment within the minerals industry in Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Let's return home to East Africa, and I'll start, of course, with the Uganda Securities Exchange as per the daily trades yesterday. Now, the Uganda Securities Exchange saw 3 equities end the day as participants in the day's trade, which seemed slightly much less than what we expected, actually, comparing their trade, yesterday's trade to Tuesday's trade. In aggregate, we had 8 gainers, pretty wonderful, and just one loser on the market. The market saw at least the top stock be NMG, or Nation Media Group, after an appreciation of close to 5.23%, and this was to a price of 523.60. The East African Breweries Limited stock at least added 3.46% at a closing price of 4,188 Ugandan shillings. Then MTN Uganda at least added about 2.86% and closed off at 174.98. Yes, MTN seems to be getting back to its feet, as you can see, now at 174.98. Yes, the price is promising. And so please, dear viewers, you could use this advantage to buy into MTN before we go into another very bullish market here at the Uganda Stock Exchange on counters like MTN Uganda. Bank of Baroda Uganda also added 0.69% at a closing price of 16.0 Ugandan shillings. Equity Bank Limited added 0.3% and closed off at 102.69 Ugandan shillings. Those were some of the top gainers on our market here. Looking at the losers side, we only had one stock, and that was Centum. Centum Investments lost 0.22% and was down to 234.57 points. And that was after closing off as the only loser on the market. In terms of trade, when you look at the trading volumes, the biggest trader here on the market was Stanbic Bank Uganda. And yes, Stanbic Bank Uganda saw at least 1.2 million shares recorded yesterday. Well, yes, Stanbic as usual has that point in time where it comes up and, it just surprises everyone. But the stock is quite stable at 26 shillings and their price hasn't even moved an inch after this huge volume has been traded on the Stanbic Bank Uganda stock. MTN Uganda also recorded at least 601,850 shares on the market, whereas Bank of Baroda Uganda recorded at least 18,600 shares on the market. Now, we are still, of course, in the season of the bonus share on the Bank of Baroda Uganda stock. Remember earlier on last month, on the 7th of June, the Bank of Baroda Uganda stock issued extra 12.5 billion shares, and this share was actually valued at 10 shillings. That means they're aiming at least at collecting over close to 125 billion. This was after, of course, there were amendments in the minimum capital requirements of commercial banks in Uganda. And the Honorable Matia Kasaija, the Minister of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, said that starting 2024, we shall be having commercial banks with a minimum capital requirement of 150 billion. So Bank of Baroda sought to boost their capital by, of course, issuing extra shares at 10 Ugandan shillings. That's why we see their price where we're seeing it now currently at 16 Ugandan shillings. As, of course, this is a consequence of the bonus issue at Bank of Baroda. Regarding the performance of the benchmark index, that's the one that tracks all the 18 stocks on the Uganda Stock Exchange. The day increased, at least the stock, at least the index, at least increased by 14.19 points. And this was closing off at close to 1,026.76 points on the all-share index of the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, we have weekly gains of at least 1.95%. So the stock exchange is quite healthy. And as an investor, you can always back on now, or especially the financial stocks, such as Stanbic Bank, as well as some other stocks like Umeme, and of course, not leaving out MTN, the telecommunications company, which is doing quite well. Let's wind up the show, of course, with Nairobi Stock Exchange briefly, as we look at what seemed to be their best day so far in this particular week. Now, Nairobi Stock Exchange saw at least 51 listings, including Safaricom and a couple of other big stocks trade on the exchange, and at least the day ended with 24 gainers and 20 losers. Unga Group led the gainers with a gain of 8.5%, closing off at 16.60 Kenyan shillings per share. Car and General added 7.14%, whereas East African Portland Cement at least added 5.54%. In as far as the losers are concerned, we had EGADS come out at the bottom after 8.82% was shedded off their market price, and as well we had the Umeme stock here depreciate by 8.82% on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Safaricom did not record the highest volume this time round. Absa Bank Kenya had the biggest share of the market with over 6.28 million shares recorded, and Safaricom coming in the second place with just 2.35 million shares that were recorded. There you have it, my friend. Thank you so much for, of course, tuning in and for watching Smart 24 TV, where we have a lot more data, and we will be bringing all that to you across the board, as of course you continue to watch the #1 business channel. At Smart 24 TV, we mean business, and we drive business 24 hours, 7 days a week. In the United States market, definitely as we wind up, you should be, of course, looking out for the FMOC. The FMOC is the Federal Open Market Committee, and yesterday they sat and they, of course, resolved not to hike the interest rates as per the Federal Reserve's, of course, committee meetings there. So what is going to be the impact of that on the US markets? Of course, that and more will be later on in the day. But thank you so much for tuning in and for watching Smart24 TV. Remember to follow us on Twitter at Smart24 TV now, and of course to watch more of the business that comes up within the day. More, of course, business to come later on. Yuji Tukole, as well as Jane Kolera, and a couple of other very intriguing programs on business. Alltex East Africa are the proud sponsors of the show. And with Alltex East Africa, you can do something new. Simply grab your phone and dial *292# and follow the prompts to do something new. That's it, my friend. I'll catch you tomorrow, same time, same place. My name is Anthony. Once again, have a good day. Bye for now.